Naskaram. Well, 2005, some of you were perhaps still in school, some of you were busy chasing dreams, others may be still wondering what those dreams even were. But I was in Chicago, not chasing dreams, but shaking people out of them. This talk, it never made it to the world. Not because it wasn't powerful, but because some things are like seeds. They wait for the right season to sprout. Today, after almost 20 years, that seed has found its moment. What was said then might just be what you need to hear now. So sit not just with your ears open, but with your being receptive. Because this is not about remembering 2005, it's about awakening now. Truth is not time-bound. It waits for your readiness. There is a certain arrogance in the modern mind that believes everything must be available on demand. Click a button, get the answer. Ask a question, expect a solution. But truth is not a Google search result. It is not something that yields itself just because you're curious, or because you're desperate, or even because you think you are ready. Truth is not sitting somewhere waiting to be discovered like a misplaced object. It is always there, it is always alive. But whether it reveals itself to you or not depends not on the truth, but on you. You see, the seed may fall on the ground, but whether it sprouts or not depends on the soil, not the seed. Similarly, truth may be spoken, written, even screamed at you, but unless the inner soil is prepared, it won't take root. You will simply hear words, meaningless syllables strung together. You might be impressed or even inspired for a few moments, but the transformation will not happen. Because transformation is not about information, it is about readiness. In 2005, I spoke of certain things that for many didn't make sense. It was too raw, too direct, too uncomfortable. People want sugar-coated spirituality, they want truth, but with a nice wrapping. They want transformation, but without the cost of breaking their identities. So when I said what I said in Chicago, some simply heard sound. But some, just a few, their eyes changed. Something within them shifted. Why? Because for them the moment had ripened. People ask me, why don't you say these things more often? I say, it's not about saying, it's about receiving. If I pour water into a vessel with no bottom, it's not the water's fault that it doesn't stay. So when truth is not received, it doesn't mean the truth is missing. It only means the vessel is not ready. This is why we say in yogic tradition, preparation is everything. Before the teaching, there must be cleansing. Before the transmission, there must be openness. Before the truth, there must be surrender. This readiness I speak of is not about years of study. It's not about being old or young. It's not about how many books you've read or how many hours you've meditated. Readiness is about one thing, a willingness to be demolished. Yes, to be shattered. Because truth doesn't build you up in the way your ego expects. It doesn't give you more things to feel good about. It breaks you. It peels away everything that is false, everything that is assumed, everything that is borrowed. And only when you have the courage to be nothing can truth make you everything. So people often wait for the perfect moment to seek truth. They wait for pain to settle, for the chaos to calm, for life to make sense. But truth doesn't wait for your comfort. It comes when your illusions begin to crack. It comes when your so-called life strategy starts to collapse. And in that disorientation, if you stay open instead of running, that's when truth enters like a breeze into a broken window. This is why sometimes you hear something now and it doesn't strike you, but 10 years later you remember it and it shakes your very foundation. Has the truth changed? No. You have. You became ripe. You became ready. So it was never about the timing of the words. It was always about the timing of your receptivity. In the yogic way, there is a beautiful understanding. We do not worship knowledge. We revere the possibility of knowing. Because knowledge is just accumulated memory. But truth is alive. It's not something you own. It's something you become. And to become that, you must shed all that you have accumulated, including your concepts of truth. So when you hear someone say, I have found the truth, be cautious, because truth is not found like a lost coin. It reveals itself. It uncovers itself to the one who is naked enough to receive it. Naked of opinion, of prejudice, of identity, of ego. What I said in 2005, maybe now, after 20 years, it can be heard not just with your ears, but with your being. Because maybe now, you are not seeking to gather something more. Maybe now you are ready to lose something. That's when truth enters. It comes like a thief in the night, not to steal your possessions, but to steal your illusions. Work is not about survival, it's about self-expression. For most people, work has become a means of earning a living. It is reduced to a transaction. I give my time, my energy, my talents, and in return I get money, status, or some form of recognition. This is a very mechanical and unfortunate way to look at what occupies such a large portion of our lives. From the moment people step into adulthood, a large part of their waking life is consumed by work. If something takes up so much of your time and energy, should it not be something that enriches your life, not drains it? The idea that work is just a tool for survival is rooted in a fear-based mindset. This fear says, if I don't do this, I won't be able to eat. I won't be secure. I won't be somebody. This kind of fear turns something that could be a joyful expression of who you are into a burden you carry every day. And the strange thing is, even when survival is no longer the issue, even when your basic needs are met, the fear does not go away, it simply evolves. Now the fear becomes about losing status, reputation, or comfort. But fear still remains the driving force. Work in its essence should be an outpouring of your inner nature. A dancer doesn't dance because she wants to survive, she dances because it is her way of being. A painter doesn't paint to fill his stomach, he paints because there is something within him that needs to come out. If your work is not aligned with your inner possibility, it will always feel like a burden, no matter how many benefits come with it. The real joy of work is not in what it gets you, but in what it allows you to become. When you engage in something fully, not just with your hands, but with your heart and your awareness, you begin to dissolve. The boundaries of you start to blur, and there is just the process, just the doing. In that moment, work becomes meditation. It becomes yoga. Not yoga as bending your body, but yoga as union, a complete merging with what you are doing. Unfortunately, society has conditioned people to look at work purely from the outside. What does it pay? What title does it give? How does it look on your resume? But these are all external measurements. They say nothing about the experience of doing it. You could be earning millions, but if every morning feels like a war with yourself just to get out of bed, you are not working, you are suffering. Real work does not require force. It draws you in like a magnet because it resonates with something deep within. Even the simplest of jobs, when done with the right awareness, can become profound. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. You could be sweeping the floor, but if you are doing it with your full presence, with care and devotion, it becomes sacred. On the other hand, you could be the CEO of a giant company, but if your work is filled with stress, manipulation, and inner resistance, it becomes a source of misery. This is why ancient traditions always valued karma yoga, the yoga of action. They said, don't work to achieve, work to dissolve the one who wants to achieve. When your work is an offering, not a means to an end, it elevates not just your experience, but the quality of what you produce. There is a certain fragrance to anything done with this spirit. People may not even understand why, but they will feel it. Work should not be about impressing others. It should be about expressing yourself. When you express, there is fulfillment. When you try to impress, there is anxiety. Expression is natural, impression is stressful. And the truth is, when you work from a place of deep inner alignment, you will naturally make an impression, but that will just be a consequence, not the goal. So when people say they are burned out or unfulfilled in their work, it is not always about working too much. Sometimes it is about working without connection, without clarity, without joy. They are doing things their heart is not in for reasons they don't fully believe in. This dissonance creates exhaustion, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual exhaustion. Work is one of the greatest opportunities life offers to know who you are and to shape who you can become. But if it is done unconsciously, it can also be the most efficient way to lose yourself. Not because of how hard you work, but because of how disconnected the doing becomes from the being. You don't find purpose, you create it through clarity. There is a common notion that purpose is something hidden, something you have to search for as if it is buried somewhere in the mountains or floating in the stars waiting to be discovered. People go on long journeys, read countless books, change careers, and even travel across continents in pursuit of this elusive thing called purpose. But purpose is not an object outside of you. It is not waiting in some corner of the world ready to be found. It is something you carve out within yourself. And the tool to carve it is not ambition or passion, it is clarity. Clarity is not about knowing everything, it is about seeing what is here now without distortion. Most people are not lacking purpose, they are simply too entangled in their own confusion to see what truly matters. When the mind is cluttered with borrowed ideas, societal expectations, and the noise of unprocessed emotions, even the simplest things become unclear. In this state, how can one expect to see something as profound as purpose? Purpose does not arise from chaos. It emerges from stillness, from seeing life as it is, not as you wish it to be. When the mind becomes still, when the inner chatter reduces, clarity naturally arises. In that clarity, what needs to be done becomes evident, not as a grand vision or a lifelong mission, but as the next step. Just the next step. And when you take that step consciously, fully, with attention and intensity, the path begins to form under your feet. People often think purpose must be something big, saving the world, starting a movement, creating a legacy. But purpose is not about scale, it is about alignment. Even making a cup of tea can be an act of deep purpose if it is done with absolute presence and care. What matters is not how visible your purpose is to the world, but how authentic it is to your inner self. A small act done with deep clarity holds more power than a grand act done with confusion. Clarity comes when you stop trying to be someone and simply learn to be. The moment you drop the compulsive need to define yourself through external things, you begin to experience yourself as you are. In that experience, a natural direction arises. You are not chasing purpose anymore, you are living it, because you are in tune with your own nature, not operating from imitation or ambition, but from authenticity. So many people are constantly seeking inspiration from others, hoping someone else's story will help them discover their own purpose. But your life is not a copy of someone else's. It is a unique expression of this existence. When you try to fit into someone else's mold, even with the best of intentions, you distance yourself from your own potential. True purpose is not inspired by imitation. It is born from the courage to sit with yourself, to see your truth without filters, and to act on it. Clarity also means learning to see what you are not. You are not your job, your title, your possessions, or even your thoughts. These are roles you play, things you use, experiences you have, but they are not you. The more you drop these false identities, the closer you come to your essential nature. And it is only from this space that true purpose can arise. Not a purpose that burns you out, but one that fuels you. Not a purpose that demands something from you, but one that flows through you. Clarity is not given. It must be cultivated. It comes when you pay attention, not to the noise outside, but to the subtle movements within. It comes when you stop reacting and start responding. It comes when you stop trying to be impressive and start being sincere. In that space of sincerity, your purpose doesn't need to be found, it finds you. Because it was never missing. It was simply waiting for you to become still enough, silent enough, and present enough to notice it. The mistake is in thinking that purpose is a destination. It is not. It is a direction, and clarity is the compass. When you know which way to walk, the destination becomes irrelevant, because each step itself becomes fulfilling. This is the beauty of living with clarity. You don't need grand plans. You just need presence. In that presence, even the smallest act becomes meaningful, and from that meaning, purpose is born, moment by moment. Silence is more powerful than any motivational word. In today's world, people are addicted to noise, not just the sound that comes through speakers or conversations, but the constant inner noise, the endless stream of thoughts, judgments, opinions, and interpretations. Even when there is physical silence around them, most people are not silent within. Their minds are constantly chattering, filling every moment with commentary, worry, or planning. In this restless state, even the most powerful words fall flat because there is no space within to receive them. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of something deeper. It is the state where the noise of the mind dissolves and awareness becomes sharp and alive. In this space, even a single glance, a single breath, or a single gesture can speak volumes more than the most eloquent. True silence is not passive, it is intensely active. It is alive with presence. It is only in this presence that real transformation can occur. Motivational words can inspire for a moment, they can light a fire, but unless the fuel is there, the fire dies out quickly. People listen to speech after speech, watch video after video, but their lives don't really change because they are consuming words without digestion. Silence is the digestive space. It is where insight settles, where truth echoes, where the real shift happens. Not because of what was said, but because of what was felt in the spaces between the words. In the yogic tradition, the most powerful moments are not when the guru is speaking, but when he becomes silent. That silence is not empty, it is full of transmission. Words can reach your mind, but silence can touch your being. This is why the greatest realizations often don't come in the middle of loud celebrations or intense discourses. They come in moments when you least expect them. A walk in nature, a quiet sunrise, a pause between thoughts. That is when something shifts. People often ask for answers. They come with questions, expecting explanations. But sometimes what they need is not an answer, it is silence. because the question itself is born from confusion, and trying to answer it with more words only feeds the confusion. But if they can sit in silence, not trying to solve the question, but simply being with it, the answer emerges on its own, not from logic, but from clarity, not from the outside, but from within. Silence requires courage. It is easy to be distracted by noise. It is comforting to keep the mind busy, to keep talking, to keep consuming. But to sit in silence means facing yourself. It means allowing whatever is within you to rise without resistance. It means not escaping into entertainment, distraction, or explanation. That's why many people fear silence, not because it is empty, but because it is too full of things they don't want to face. But those who learn to befriend silence discover a new kind of power, a power that is not about domination or persuasion, but about presence. When you can sit without speaking and still radiate clarity, when you can say nothing and still communicate depth, that is power. And this kind of power cannot be learned through books or speeches. It can only be discovered through experience. In deep silence, you realize that most of the problems you think you have are not real. They are magnified by your mind, by your storytelling, by your constant thinking. Silence cuts through this mental fog like a blade. It brings you back to what is, not what you think, not what you wish, but what truly is. And in that seeing, many problems dissolve, not because they are solved, but because they no longer seem relevant. People often chase motivation as if it is something they can collect and store. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. What sustains real action, what nurtures real clarity, is not constant stimulation. It is stillness. In stillness, you don't need motivation. You act because you are clear. You move because the movement arises from a centered place. And that movement is far more powerful than any action fueled by emotional hype. There is a reason why sages, mystics, and masters across cultures have always emphasized silence, not just as a practice, but as a way of being. Because in silence, you begin to align with a deeper intelligence, one that is not based on books, theories, or borrowed knowledge, but one that is primal, present, and profound. This intelligence does not speak in language. It speaks in direct knowing. In that knowing, there is no doubt, no hesitation, no need for validation. Freedom begins when you stop outsourcing your inner experience. Most people live as if their inner experience is a consequence of the outer world. If someone speaks kindly, they feel good. If someone criticizes, they feel bad. If the situation is favorable, they are peaceful. If it's not, they are disturbed. In this way, life becomes a reaction, not a conscious response. The problem with this is that the keys to your well-being are always in someone else's pocket. You are no longer the master of your own inner atmosphere. You are merely a puppet pulled by the strings of external events. As long as your inner world is determined by things outside of you, freedom will always remain a distant dream. You may think you are making choices, but those choices are rooted in compulsion, in fear, in conditioning. True freedom is not the ability to do what you want. It is the ability to be the way you want, regardless of what is happening around you. If you can maintain your joy, your clarity, your stillness, even when the world turns upside down, that is freedom. But to reach this state, one must first stop the habit of outsourcing. Today, if you are unhappy, you blame someone. If you are anxious, you blame a situation. If you are angry, you blame the world. This is the nature of outsourcing. You believe someone or something else is responsible for how you feel. In this game, you are always a victim. You may change jobs, relationships, or cities, but nothing truly changes because the root of the problem is not outside, it is your dependence on the outside. The moment you begin to turn inward and take ownership of your experience, a fundamental shift happens. You start realizing that joy is not something to be extracted from the world, it is something to be expressed from within. Peace is not something that descends when everything is perfect. It is a possibility that you create by not reacting to imperfection. When you stop waiting for circumstances to be right and start aligning yourself with your own clarity, life becomes effortless. This does not mean you reject the world or stop participating. It simply means you stop giving the world the power to dictate your state of being. Whether people like you or hate you, you remain centered. Whether things go according to your plan or not, you remain balanced. This stability is not born out of indifference but out of mastery, a mastery that comes from turning inward and understanding the mechanics of your own being. Everything that happens outside is uncertain. The economy changes, people change, the weather changes. If your peace is attached to these variables, it will be fragile. But there is one thing you can work on directly. You can bring order to your body, your mind, your emotions, and your energies. When these are aligned, external chaos cannot disturb your inner harmony. You move through life like a flame that burns steady, even in the wind. People often think inner work is about becoming passive or detached, but true inner mastery makes you more alive, more responsive, more compassionate, because now your actions are not reactions, they are deliberate. They arise from clarity, not compulsion. You no longer lash out because you are angry. You act because you have seen clearly what needs to be done. This kind of action carries tremendous power because it is not fueled by emotion, but by awareness. To stop outsourcing your inner experience also means letting go of the idea that someone else should make you feel loved, respected, or complete. As long as you depend on another for these feelings, you remain in bondage. But when you generate them from within, you are free. You become a source, not a seeker. People are drawn to such a person not because of what they do, but because of who they are. There is a magnetic stillness, a quiet power in someone who is not trying to get something from the world, but is simply overflowing. This does not require belief or philosophy. It only requires a simple recognition that everything you seek outside, you are actually capable of creating within. Joy, peace, love, strength, these are not things, they are qualities of your being. When you stop outsourcing, these qualities naturally rise. They are not gifts from the world, they are expressions of a conscious life. This is why the yogic sciences do not focus on changing the world, but on transforming the self. Because once you are stable, joyful, and clear, the world becomes a place to play, not a place to escape from or conquer. Your experience becomes your choice, and in that choice lies the beginning of true freedom. Success is not something you pursue, it is something you align with. From the moment a child is able to understand language, society begins whispering the idea of success. It is defined, boxed, and sold in various forms: academic achievement, career milestones, material wealth, social status. People grow up chasing this packaged idea, believing that if they just run fast enough, work hard enough, and do all the right things, they will eventually catch it. But chasing success in this way often leads not to fulfillment but to fatigue, because when you pursue something that is outside of you without ever aligning with what's inside, the distance never seems to reduce. Success is not about becoming something, it is about becoming yourself fully. When you are doing what you are designed to do, when you are functioning at your highest potential, success becomes a natural consequence. Like a flower that blossoms, it does not try to impress anyone, it simply fulfills its nature, and the fragrance is a byproduct. In the same way, if your life is an expression of your true nature, whatever needs to come will come. The problem is that most people are too busy trying to fit into the mold of what success is supposed to look like. They are measuring themselves with someone else's yardstick, trying to reach someone else's goal. This creates a life of comparison, not clarity. When you look outward constantly to validate your progress, your inner compass goes silent. And without that compass, even if you run fast, you may be running in the wrong direction. Success that comes from alignment is not noisy. It doesn't always show up as fame or fortune. Sometimes it is quiet, like a teacher who touches a child's life forever, or a farmer who works in tune with the land, or an artist who paints not for a gallery, but because something within him must find expression. These lives may not look glamorous, but they are filled with grace, because when you live in alignment, even the smallest act becomes meaningful. To align yourself means to bring your body, mind, emotions, and energies into coherence. When these four dimensions of who you are begin to move in one direction, there is no struggle. You are not pushing against life, you are flowing with it. In such a state, you don't have to chase anything. Things come to you, not because you demand them, but because you became capable of receiving them. This is the difference between pursuit and alignment. Pursuit is effort without inner clarity. Alignment is effortless movement with absolute clarity. When people say they are tired of working so hard without results, what they are usually missing is alignment. It's not that they are not trying, they are simply trying in too many directions at once. One part of them wants this, another part doubts, another part fears, another part is distracted. With such fragmentation, even simple goals become difficult. Alignment begins with self-knowing, not as an intellectual idea, but as a lived experience. You must be able to sit with yourself and ask, what truly matters to me? Not what is expected of me, not what will make me look successful in someone else's eyes, but what resonates with my being. The answer to this may not come in words. It may come as a feeling, a movement, a sense of direction, but when it comes, you will know, because there will be peace in that knowing. Once you are aligned, even your challenges challenges become part of your growth. Obstacles don't frustrate you, they shape you. Setbacks don't break you, they reveal your resilience. Because now, success is not measured by outcomes, but by integrity. The integrity to walk your path, to stay true to your nature, to live consciously. In this sense, success is not something you get, it is something you become. Many people believe that aligning with success means waiting for the perfect moment, the right environment, the ideal conditions. But alignment is not about conditions, it is about your inner condition. You can be in the worst situation, but if you are inwardly aligned, you can still move gracefully. Conversely, you can have every advantage, but if you are inwardly fragmented, you will still feel lost. This is why inner work is essential, not as a luxury or a spiritual hobby, but as the foundation of all success. When you align within, life responds without, the world begins to reflect your inner clarity. Doors open, people support, opportunities arise, not magically, but naturally. Because you are no longer scattered, you are focused, present, and in tune with life's rhythm.